Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Welcome. Not a Victory Monday edition of Channelside in the Morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. What's going on? I am Danny. Yeah. 18-20. Guys, 18-20. That's all I'm going to say. 18-20 to the 1-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I don't want to sit here and say, I told you so. I don't want to say that I was right and you were wrong. But I do want to say I said one thing very specific. And that was, do not sleep on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what did we do? As fans, I said, don't sleep on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what did you do? Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's the Steelers. We'll be fine. Shaq Barrett's going to be injured. Shaq Barrett, questionable with an illness. That's fine. Perfect game to miss. It's just the Steelers. Okay. How did that play out? How did that fare for the Buccaneers? How did that work out for us? I'm curious. 1-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, we'll be fine. We're the Bucs. We got the GOAT. We got Tom Brady. How did that work out? I tried telling you the Pittsburgh Steelers are not a team that you want to take lightly. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not a true 1-4 team. Just like, if we're being totally honest, we were not a true 3-2 team. We had one game where we put both sides of the ball together, and that was game number 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. That was it. That was number 1. That was the only time we ever did it. It's the only time we've ever looked good. Sure, we beat the Saints. Didn't look that great against the Saints. Oh, well, Mike Evans was ejected in the fourth quarter. Mike Evans only missed 18 snaps in that game compared to any other game. Didn't miss that much. Oh, we didn't have Mike Evans against Green Bay. It looked like crap against Green Bay anyway. Tom Brady had less than 2 seconds of clean pocket time to throw the ball. 1-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. September 2nd, I put out the schedule. I put out my schedule prediction. And I marked this as a loss. And I can't tell you how many people say, oh, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know football. You don't know this, that, and the other. Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying these things to talk myself up. I know I gave the Steelers credit. I'm not saying these things to talk myself up. But I will tell you this. I knew that we needed to watch out for the Steelers. You mean to tell me that Todd Bowles wasn't going to have those boys ready? Come on, man. Todd Bowles was not going to have that team ready, prepared, and looking to... You can't tell me that. I don't believe it. What happened yesterday? Was it because Tom Brady went to Robert Kraft's wedding? I know the optics, sure. Tom Brady went to Robert Kraft's wedding. Everything is terrible. Sure, I get it. You get it. I get it. We all get it. That's not why the Bucs lost. All season long, even in wins. Excuse me. All season long, even in wins. What were people saying? We need you to be more like Bruce Arians. We need Todd Bowles to be more like Bruce Arians. This is what we need. This is what we want from Todd Bowles. We need this from Todd Bowles. Be more like Bruce Arians, he says, right? What does Todd Bowles do yesterday at the press conference? Guys living off the Super Bowl are living in a fantasy land. We need to play better. It's time to put up or shut up. The time for talking is over. And the time for talking was over after we beat the Falcons by 6 points. Everybody, myself included, said, oh yeah, it's the Falcons. This is the get right game. They're rebuilding. Maybe they're on the uptrend, sure, but they're not quite there. But in the NFC, outside of possibly the Philadelphia Eagles, we're the team to beat. The Rams are spinning their wheels. The Cowboys always have, they always start the season off decent to get all those annoying Cowboy fans up and at them and rowdy. But we're the Bucs. We're ready. On paper, we're a 17-0 team. Tell me we're not. On paper, this Buccaneers team is 17-0. In reality, they're a 500 team right now. And to be honest, they're kind of lucky that they're a 500 team. If we don't get that very bad Grady Jarrett roughing the passer call on Tom Brady, we could be looking at a team that is sitting 2-4 right now. So it makes me wonder, and I want to hear from you guys in the chat. Thank you for everybody that's tuning in this morning. I want to hear from you guys too. Are the wheels starting to fall off of this thing? And if they are, where does it start? Does it start with Todd Bowles? Does it start with Tom Brady? I see a lot of fans now saying, fire Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich isn't causing the offensive line to suck. It's not on Byron Leftwich that the offensive lineman can't block. That's not him. That's not on him. That's not his fault, right? We can't blame Byron Leftwich for that. I wonder, and I asked this earlier in the season. I don't remember after which game. But it was one of the routinely poor offensive outings that we've had this season. And I asked, and I said, I wonder how many times Bruce Arians was actually calling the offense versus Byron Leftwich calling the offense. And this was not for me to slight Byron Leftwich. I like Byron Leftwich. But I wondered it. How many times is Bruce Arians actually calling the offense versus Byron Leftwich? So it's a legitimate question for me. Was Bruce Arians actually the glue that held this team together? I think he was. I think we're starting to see that Bruce Arians, of all people, Bruce Arians was the glue that held this team together, because without him, I feel like guys almost feared Bruce, right? Where Todd Bowles, they respect him. I'm not going to say that the team disrespects Todd Bowles, but I think Bruce is like the dad, and Todd Bowles is like your cool uncle, right? Yeah, we respect him. He knows his shit. He knows what he's doing. But it's not dad, right? Like, he's not going to, he can't discipline us like that. Like, we're not scared of Todd Bowles, going off on us. Like, Bruce Arians, remember when Bruce Arians, I can't even remember, who did he hit last season on our team? Right? Like, you're not going to see that from Todd Bowles. Bruce Arians isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. He's not afraid for bad media publicity, right? And we're not going to talk about the publicity leading up into the game with the Todd Bowles and Mike Tomlin connection questions and all of that. It is what it is. But it does, to me, it begs the question, is Todd Bowles the true leader of this team, or do they need Bruce Arians back out there? Right? We know Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. But it seems like he's kind of lost control of the circus around him. I knew that this was going to be a very piss poor game when Devin White got that roughing the passer penalty, when he took 5 steps before shoving Kenny Pickett down. I knew that this was going to get out of hand. When I picked the Steelers to beat the Bucs September 2nd, this was before we knew that the Bucs were going to be terrible on offense. This was before we knew the Steelers were going to be terrible on offense as well. This was purely a sleeper pick because everybody was overlooking the Steelers. Oh, they don't have Ben. They're done. They don't have Ben. And that's not to say that the Steelers aren't going to be done because they don't have Ben. But currently they're sitting with a W over our Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, who are looking like wild card contenders at the very best currently. Now, I had people tell me yesterday, the Bucs are fine. They still have a dominant defense. They still got a top. Look, the Buccaneers have a top defense, not because what they've done in the last 3 weeks. The Buccaneers have a top 5 defense, which is probably going to change after tonight's games. But they were so dominant in the first 2 weeks, even 3 if you want to count the Packers. But statistically, they were very dominant against the Cowboys, and they were dominant against the New Orleans Saints, statistically speaking, right? That is why the Buccaneers are still reaping the benefits of being called a top defense. We know where they should be, but they're not playing that way yet, right? Like, they're not playing that way yet. They've fallen off the radar. They've kind of fallen off of the map. Cleaned it up a little bit yesterday, right? Now, I know the optics of the Tom Brady situation. I get it. He was at a wedding on Friday, didn't fly with the team, flew in by himself, blah, 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 blah. Tom Brady, regardless of going to that wedding, Tom Brady all season long has struggled. Sure, he's third. He was third heading into this week. He was third in passing yards. It's great. But he has struggled connecting with every wide receiver, kind of intertwined between games. Last week, Mike Evans caught 50% of the passes of his targets, and that's it. Mike Evans is not a 50% pass catching guy. He just couldn't he couldn't get together. They could not get on the same page. Russell Gage had what? How many receptions did Russell Gage have against the Packers? Up until yesterday, non-existent. Couldn't get on the same page. Chris Godwin against the Falcons. What does Chris Godwin do against the Falcons? 6 catches, 6 targets. What does Chris Godwin do yesterday? Had a good game, but how many targets did he have? Tom Brady's just struggled to connect with his receivers all season. Add on to the fact that he is in the bottom 3 of pass protection. Okay, look, Luke Gedeke, literally dead last amongst all offensive linemen. I'm not just talking about guards. I'm talking about guards, tackles, and centers. Luke Gedeke is dead last in pass protection. But he's had a who's who of defenders lining up against him. He's had a who's who of guys that he needs to go against. And it wasn't any easier yesterday. This is what I try saying before we're heading into the game. Pittsburgh's got the 29th best rushing offense. It is what it is. But Cam Hayward was going to have a field day, and Cam Hayward was very disruptive yesterday. Leonard Fournette finished with a semi-decent stat line, right? Semi-decent. But that was the extent of it. That's where it ended. We know what they're doing now, and here's the problem is, if we can all see it, so can the other coaches. Right? They're having trouble passing the ball. They're having trouble running the ball. So what do? You do these passes out to the flat almost. So they're kind of like running plays, but they're not really running plays. They're passing plays. And this is what the Buccaneers theme has been for these last 2 games, as they realize, hey, we're really struggling to run this ball. This is where they are. They have no 6 weeks in. The team that was second favorited to win the Super Bowl, the team that was the favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, Hard Rock Sportsbook, DraftKings, FanDuel. Doesn't matter what your sports book, doesn't matter what book you were looking at. The favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl 6 weeks in has no identity. Their identity right now is living off Ryan Suckup's leg. That's their identity. 12 of their points yesterday. 12 of their points yesterday came from Ryan Suckup. In what world, when you have an offense that has Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, in what world, when you have an offense that has that lineup of names, are you living off of your kicker's leg? They've got issues. They've got some serious issues that they need to figure out. And look, they're heading to Carolina next week. Carolina needs to be the get right game, because the get right game was supposed to be the Falcons and it wasn't. The get right game was supposed to be the Pittsburgh Steelers after it wasn't the Falcons, and it damn sure wasn't the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they don't come out next Sunday and obliterate the Carolina Panthers, and I'm talking about a convincing win. I'm not talking about a 5-point win, a 3-point win. I'm talking about a 12-plus point win. If they don't come out and have a 12-plus point win against the Carolina Panthers, this team is in a lot of trouble. This team is in a lot of trouble of possibly, it's crazy to say it, possibly heading into week 8. Now, I mean, you got to watch the power rankings now. The Bucs dropped from 2nd to 8th before the loss to the Steelers. We've got to watch, like, the wheels are slowly coming off for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. And look, Todd Bowles is correct when Todd Bowles says, living off of 2 years ago, these guys are living in a fantasy land. He's not incorrect at all. He's 100% correct. And I think that's what I don't have any names in particular. You know, I know a lot of fans, you know, I think we're like 75,000 views on TikTok of that Todd Bowles calling out his players video. And a lot of the comments are going, oh, he's talking about Tom Brady, or he's talking about Devin White. I don't know if I buy that he's talking about Devin White. You know what? Devin White's had some boneheaded plays, but he's also played lights out for the majority of, outside of playing in coverage. We know Devin White's kind of struggles in coverage, but he's played pretty lights out for most of the season. Devin White is the heart and soul of the Buccaneers defense. You know, we know Levante David might be the veteran leader, but he's not a high motor guy like Devin White is. Devin White is the pulse of that defense. Antoine Winfield has come along. He's had a fantastic season. So who is Todd Bowles talking about? You know, who is Todd Bowles sitting here saying, oh, well, they're living in a fantasy land? Stop talking. You know, Devin White's been running his mouth a lot before games. Maybe that was directed to Devin White. I don't think I think if we break it down into sections, we're listening to Todd Bowles talk about basically everybody that's on this team on both sides of the ball, on all three phases. You know, heading into the game, Todd Bowles said that he told Ryan Suckup heading into the season, we're probably not going to talk a lot unless you're missing field goals. You know how after a team wins in hockey, they go and they hug their goalie? I hope Todd Bowles walked over to Ryan Suckup and hugged Ryan Suckup, because let's be real here. An 18-20 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Imagine if Suckup missed 2 of those and you lose 12-20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have struggled on both offense and defense. Defense has struggled because they've been in and out of injuries. Offense has struggled because Matt Canada doesn't really know what he's doing on offense. Offense has struggled because Mitchell Trubisky's new to the system. Kenny Pickett's a rookie. Offensive line has struggled with injuries. Najee Harris had a foot injury. That's why the Steelers have struggled. That's why I said the Steelers are not a true 1-4 team heading into that game. Tom Brady talked about it after the game. We didn't earn the right to win that game. It's about playing well, performing well. We haven't done it. And we haven't done it for all 6. We haven't done it for 6 weeks. And he's right. He's 100% right. They haven't done it for 6 weeks. Who's going to start? Who's going to take a leadership? Tom Brady is preoccupied. You can tell. You can tell by the way that he's on the game, but when he's on the field. You can tell when he's in press conferences. You can tell when we're watching him at practice. You can tell. Tom Brady's, and say what you want. Marriage, other things, Robert Kraft. Say what. I don't care where his mind is at. Right? Like I'm not a therapist. I don't care where his mind is at, but I can tell that it's elsewhere. And Todd Bowles' comment of put up or shut up, the time for talking has stopped. I think a lot of that has to do with when you're looking at Tom Brady, because where's the salary cap hits going? The Bucs have $35 million in a dead cap hit for Tom Brady next year to what? Possibly barely make the playoffs this season? It's problematic if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady right now. Tom Brady right now has lost quite a few fans. He's losing fans. Now, is it heat of the moment comments that people are making? Probably, yes. But Tom Brady is, I'm not going to say he's losing fans. Tom Brady is losing favor with the fans. Missed 11 days during training camp, whatever. But you missed time. That was time where you could have developed camaraderie. Like, now, who are we to say that Tom Brady wasn't allowed to go to Robert Kraft's wedding? First of all, right? Like, we're not at liberty to say, yeah, Tom, you can't go to Robert Kraft's wedding. Like, that's not for us to say. But the optics of it are bad. This is kind of along the same lines where people go, well, Baker Mayfield was a terrible quarterback in Cleveland because he did too many progressive commercials. It's the same optics. I think the situations are different. Guys aren't filming commercials during the season. Guys are filming commercials after the season. And what is Robert Kraft doing getting married on a Friday night during the regular season? Like, what are you doing, Robert? What is Robert Kraft doing getting married during the regular season on a Friday night in New York City? Where did the New England Patriots play? And hell, the New England Patriots put up, 38 points yesterday? So we can't sit here and blame... We can't blame the wedding for Tom Brady playing poorly, because the New England Patriots, some of which were in attendance, they all played well. They racked up 38 points and got a victory. I mean, the wheels are getting shaky. I'm not going to say they're falling off, but I'm noticing I am noticing it, and I hope you guys are noticing it too. There's no glue for this team. That's the issue for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now is there is no glue. There is no glue to hold this thing together because it's not Todd Bowles. He's shown us that. Good coach, respect the hell out of him, really like Todd Bowles. But he's shown that he's not the glue to hold this team together. Starting to think that it was Bruce Arians. Starting to really strongly believe that Bruce Arians is the glue that holds this team together. For better or for worse, I think it's Bruce Arians, and I think that's. I'm not going to say the Bucs don't make the playoffs. I'm not going to say anything egregious like that. But I am saying if they don't beat the Carolina Panthers and they don't beat the Carolina Panthers convincingly, then we might have to talk about a future where the Buccaneers might not make the playoffs because now you have fallen 3-4. One of your wins was against a rebuilding team. You lost to the Panthers. You lost to the Steelers. The Chiefs and the Packers, whatever. I mean, if you watched the Packers game yesterday, you're sitting there scratching your head going, how the hell did we lose to the Packers? Well, we lost to the Packers not because of their offense. We lost to the Packers because their defense played better. And their defense was able to stall out our offense. Our defense held the Packers to 14 points, and we couldn't figure out how to put it together on offense. Largely in part because of the struggles of the offensive line. You know, I'd like to. I'm going to go through the game film later on today and kind of highlight Luke Gedeke. I would like to say that I think that he did a fairly decent job yesterday against Cam Hayward. I would like to say that I think he did a fairly decent job to Cam Hayward. And you know, that's what we wanted. That's what I wanted for Luke Gedeke. I wanted to see him not completely struggle. I wanted to see Luke Gedeke finally get his footing because he's had the worst start to a season, and not because he's not a solid player, but he's had the worst start to a season because look at the guys that have lined up across from him. Look at the defensive tackles that he has played against. That to me is why. That to me is why Luke Gedeke has started off the season so poorly. He was just kind of thrust in there. Now, would Aaron Stinney have done any better? I don't know. We don't know that. We don't know if Aaron Stinney would have done better. We don't know if he would have done worse. But we have what we have. This is the information that we have. Is that Luke has struggled mightily to start the season. And not completely all because of him. Leonard Fournette, I posted this yesterday. Heading into the game. Heading into yesterday's game. I got to pull up these numbers. Heading into yesterday's game, Leonard Fournette had the same amount of carries. Leonard Fournette, let me see where I can find this real quick. Sorry, I got to pull this up here. Leonard Fournette heading into the game. Where was it? Both Leonard Fournette and Jeff Wilson Jr. had carried the ball 74 times heading into yesterday. Leonard Fournette averaged 2.1 yards per carry. Jeff Wilson Jr. averaged 3.8 yards per carry. Where's the context, you ask? And it's not per carry. It's per carry before contact. We're talking about almost doubling Leonard Fournette's. Like, this is what we're talking about, almost doubling Leonard Fournette's yards before contact. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. It really is. Like I just hmm. Well, Cameron Brate went down with a being evaluated for a concussion again. Um, we're definitely glad that Cameron Brate is going to be okay. But here's what we're learning is that these new helmets that they keep talking about are going to be that are supposed to help, that are supposed to be preventive, that are supposed to uh help alleviate the amount of concussions. They're not working. I've seen more concussions this season through 6 weeks than I have for entire seasons. And this was before the NFL decided to adjust the helmets and make the changes and do all of these things that are supposed to help alleviate the amount of concussions. I know I had somebody try to explain to me what a concussion was yesterday when I made this comment. I'm not sure why. Yes, I'm well aware that we can't stop a concussion. I'm well aware of that. A concussion is a brain injury when it moves. I know. But these new helmets are supposed to help prevent. They're supposed to help. But they haven't helped at all. We have more concussions now than when linebackers were allowed to light players up in the middle of the field. We have more concussions now than when Sean Taylor was destroying people in the secondary. We're having more consecutive concussions as well. Tua, 2 concussions. Cam Brate, 2 concussions. I know they said it was a neck injury. I'm starting to... the way that the NFL handled the Tua situation, and I'm going to say it's the NFL as a whole, because the NFL could have intervened at any point in time, but they opted not to. But I'm going to say that the way that the NFL did not intervene and the way that the NFL handled the Tua situation with the concussion, I don't know if I totally buy that Cameron Brate only had a neck injury. I don't think I buy that. We'll see. But the Bucks got to figure it out, man. You know, they're not like sure. The Lightning are sitting 1-2 right now. Sucks. There's 79 more games. You can right the wrongs of a 1-2 start. When you're 3-3, got 11 more games. Could they go on a run and could they win out the next 11 games? Sure. Well, let's roll with that. But that still doesn't mean that everything is all well and good. It's frustrating. It's frustrating as a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan to sit there and look at this team where you're expecting everything to go right this season. Tom Brady came out of retirement, said he has unfinished business. Here we go, baby. It's starting. We're rolling with it. It's not really the case, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's not the case. But they have to figure it out. You know, I know trade deadline is about a month away. You know, do the Bucks make a trade? You know, I don't see any actual areas of need for the Buccaneers outside of the obvious of the offensive lineman. And I think that if I'm a general manager and I'm a head coach and a team owner, if I see that Jason Light is on the other end of that phone, my offensive linemen are going to come at a premium because I know that's basically all you need to get this team to a Super Bowl is you need the offensive line to improve. I think you improve the offensive line, things start working better. You improve the offensive line, that opens up the run game more. That opens up Tom Brady to make his progressions quicker, better, and more effective. But I'm telling you, man, if I'm the GM and I see Jason Light's name on the other end, I'm asking a king's ransom for any offensive lineman that he's asking for. I don't care if he's second to dead last above Luke Gedeke in terms of offensive lineman rankings and PFF grades. I don't care. I'm asking a king's ransom because I know that's all the Buccaneers need. That's the only real adjustment that the Buccaneers need. Sure, we can talk about Ndamukong Suh needs to come back, and Logan Hall played well against the Falcons. You didn't really hear anything about him yesterday. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, it is what it is. But I'll tell you, it's a scary situation to be in. The Panthers have to be the get right game. They have to be the get right game because you can't wait and hope that the brakes fall off the brakes fall off for the Seattle Seahawks. Right? You can't just hope that the Seahawks won 19-9 over the Arizona Cardinals yesterday. I'm not an Arizona Cardinals guy. I'm not high on the Cardinals this year. I don't think that I think the Cardinals, and I've said this plenty of times, I think the Cardinals lost more than they gained. I think that's, the Cardinals lost more than they gained. The Bucs are sitting 3-3. They're sitting atop the NFC South because they beat the Atlanta Falcons, who are also 3-3. The New Orleans Saints are 2-4. They had the tough loss yesterday, but the Falcons handled business. They doubled up yesterday, 28-14. In a game that everybody thought that they were going to lose against the San Francisco 49ers. If you go through these 3-3 teams, just specifically in the NFC, the Packers are 3-3. They beat the Bucs. The Falcons are 3-3. In my opinion, almost just as tough as the Buccaneers are right now. And then you've got the NFC West. 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, all 3-3. Which of these teams are we actually better than? At this current point of the season, 6 games into the season, which of those teams are the Buccaneers actually better than? Because it's looking like the NFC East is going to put 3 teams into the playoffs. I wasn't a fan of the Packers making the playoffs this year, and I'm still not. After they got demolished by the Jets yesterday, I'm still not a fan of the Packers, and I feel like that to me is more of a reason why. The Bucs could still win the NFC South. They hold a tiebreaker over both the Saints and the Falcons, and they should win the NFC South. But the NFC West, are the Bucs better than the Rams? I'd say the Bucs and the Rams are pretty much on par right now. Are they better than the 49ers? I don't think they're better than the 49ers. I think the 49ers defense is better. The 49ers have also outscored their opponents by 33 points, where the Bucs have only outscored their opponents by 18. Out of all the teams that have a winning record, the Buccaneers are the third from the bottom in terms of point differential. Doing it live, you got a problem with that? But we've got to figure it out. My worry for the Buccaneers is that they figure it out too late into the season. All it takes is, I said this the entire time where we're watching the Rays try to get to the playoffs to finish the season, knowing that they had the most difficult schedule in September in the entire Major League. All you got to do is get to the dance. That's all you have to do. Get to the dance and make things happen after that. That's all. That's the only thing you have to do. get to the playoffs and play in the playoffs. Perform well in the playoffs. That's all you got to do. That's all the Bucks need to do. How many times have we seen a wild card team win the championship in any sport? Obviously, there's no wild card realistically in the NBA, but we saw the Giants as a wild card win the Super Bowl with Eli Manning. We've seen teams win. Is it a more difficult path? Of course it is. But I'm also not a fan of finishing first and getting that bye week, because how many times do we see the team that had the bye fall short? Usually the team with the bye is the Green Bay Packers. How many Super Bowls do the Green Bay Packers have? The answer is 0. That's how many Super Bowls the Green Bay Packers have. Or they have 1. Aaron Rodgers has 1 Super Bowl for 4 MVP seasons. You got to finish. I'm fine. Finish second, third, fourth, whatever. But get to the dance. My concern right now is figuring it out too late and having to file and having to play that wild card bid. Because you're going to have the toughest stretch in the playoffs. And for what we've seen right now, this team's going to get bounced in the wild card round from what we have seen thus far through 6 weeks. We have not seen a complete game from either side. We haven't seen that. And that's the part to me where I'm looking at it going, holy shit, we're going to be in trouble. We have not seen a complete game from the Bucks. Whether it's Jalen Darden and his terrible returns, whether it's the defense, which played better yesterday, but still has questions about where their identity went. They went from being, the first 2 weeks of the season, and this might be where a lot of people kind of, I'm guilty of it as well. But for the first 2 weeks of the season, based off of the yards that the Bucks allowed and based off of the scores that the Bucks allowed, they were flirting with NFL history after the first 2 weeks of the season. Monsters of the Midway allowed more points than the Bucks did. The Monsters of the Midway, the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Bucks, the 2015 Denver Broncos, all of those teams allowed more yards and they allowed more points through the first 2 weeks of the season. Now, I know somebody's sitting there watching this right now or watching it later going, it's only 2 weeks. That doesn't mean that it's irrelevant information. Sure, it's early in the season, and we all know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But if you get started, you have the opportunity to stay hot. They stayed hot through 3 weeks. Then they played the Chiefs, things fell apart. Okay, that's fine. We can tune it up a little bit. We play the Falcons. We're going to allow them for 157 yards on the ground. We're going to allow Marcus Mariota to pass for 140 plus yards. And then we're going to allow them to rush more. We play the Steelers. I said they held their own for all intents and purposes. They held their own against the Steelers. In the defensively. They allowed 270 yards. That's not terrible. The Steelers were 7 of 15 on third down. The Bucks were 4 of 14 on third down. Drives were just stalling. 6 penalties. The Bucks won. The time of possession was basically split the entire game. I think heading into halftime, the Steelers had the advantage in time of possession by like 20 seconds. Finished the game. Bucks had 30 minutes and 1 second. The Steelers had 29 minutes and 59 seconds. Literally a 2-second difference in time of possession. No turnovers. Defense forced no turnovers. I mean, it starts with execution. We could say that, it's Tom Brady not playing Tom Brady-esque football, not playing the way that we expect Tom Brady to play. Maybe we'll give it that. But it's Carolina's got to be, I can't stress this enough. I said that we didn't need this, like, don't sleep on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are better than anybody was giving them credit for heading into the season. That was the trap game for the Buccaneers. And they lost. I can't even look at this Carolina Panthers game as a trap game because the Panthers are that bad. I can't look at this Carolina Panthers game coming up on Sunday and say, yeah, it's a trap game, because I don't believe it. I don't believe it to be a trap game, even as poorly as the Buccaneers are executing right now. I don't believe that this is a trap game. And I don't see a world where we have to worry about the Buccaneers losing to the Carolina Panthers. But I will say, on the flip side of that, if the Buccaneers lose to the Carolina Panthers, it's going to be a long, long season. If the Buccaneers fall under 500 because they lost to the Carolina Panthers and they fall 3-4, these next 10 games are going to be very long, because the Seahawks are a hell of a lot better than any of us projected that they were going to be. We already struggled against the Falcons. We know that the Saints routinely have our number in the regular season. Yeah, we got the victory in the Superdome. But what is that? It wasn't like a lopsided victory. It wasn't like we just ran through them and we annihilated them. There's the remainder of the schedule for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is, now when you look at it, Browns, should be a win. Seahawks, not so sure. Rams, not so sure. Ravens, not so sure. Saints, not so sure. 49ers, not sure. Bengals, not sure. Cardinals should be a win. I mean, there's no games remaining out of the remainder of this schedule. There are no more easy games for the Buccaneers outside of the Carolina Panthers and possibly the Arizona Cardinals, who are teetering on that on the fence of being really bad. If we don't figure out how to stop the run by November 27th, when we travel to Cleveland, what do you think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to do? You got a month and 10 days. You have 40 days to figure out how to stop the run before you meet Nick Chubb. That's a lot of time. In the meantime, you're going to play Lamar Jackson. You're going to play J.K. Dobbins on Thursday Night Football, that's our next home game in 10 days from now. That's our next game. Kenneth Walker put together a decent little stretch. That's the Munich game. Overseas games are always tough because you don't know how players are going to react to the travel. You know, how many guys on this Buccaneers team currently have played overseas? Outside of Tom Brady, not a lot of them. Not a lot of the guys on this team currently have played overseas. So you can't say that, even if the Seahawks were playing at the level that we expected them to play, which was kind of below average, it's still not a gimme game. Because international series games are a different animal. They're neutral. You're going to have Packers jerseys and Vikings jerseys. Like, you know, sure, the Bucks are going to have their stuff on the field, right? The Bucks are going to have, you know, the Go Bucks all over it because it's technically a home game for them. But that's not a gimme. There are no gimmies left. Cordero Patterson should be back by the last Falcons game. If the Falcons continue to play how they were playing, dude, imagine if Cordero Patterson played last Sunday against the Bucks, where they gave up 150 plus yards on the ground to Algier and Mariota. Just imagine if they had RB1 there. We could be singing a different tune right now. We could already be 3-4 or 2-4. That's where this team is right now. Is too many question marks. And it starts up top. It has to start up top. It has to start with Todd Bowles. It has to start with Todd Bowles rallying everybody. I know typically you have Mondays off. Calling a team meeting, whether it's via Zoom, FaceTime, whatever, and just saying like, hey, take the day, assess what happened yesterday. Give yourself a grade on how you think you performed yesterday. We're going to talk about it on Tuesday. I would say Tuesday's practice should be film study and conversation. That's it. That's all it should be, is studying film from, and not just from yesterday. Study film from yesterday. Study film against the Falcons. Study film against the Cowboys in week 1. See what has changed. Because the Cowboys right now have a very, very good defense. The Cowboys have a defense that is a Super Bowl winning defense. Just so happens that they ran into the Eagles. We've all said that. Not just me. I'm not going to take credit for this, but everybody who's covered football has said the Eagles have the most complete roster in the NFL. That's why they're 6-0. They're not 6-0 because of luck. They're 6-0 because they're really damn good. That's why the Philadelphia Eagles are undefeated. That's why they're 6-0. Just so happens that the Cowboys lost to them. I mean, that's what you expect when you play the best put together team in the NFL. That's what you have to expect. Corey in the chat says the Bucs are lucky that they're not 1-5. Look, the Bucs are very lucky that they're not 1-5. The game against New Orleans was very easily losable. The game against Atlanta, that was. Look, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to keep harping on the Grady Jarrett roughing the passer penalty, but the Bucs stalled their offense enough against the Atlanta Falcons to where that penalty holds a lot of weight in the outcome of that game. Now, I know I said it last Monday when I was recapping the Falcons game. It doesn't matter what level of sports you've played in. If you've played competitive sports from Pee Wee to college, I've had my coaches, no matter what the sport was, whether it was basketball, whether it was football, whether it was diving, whether it was track, it does not matter what the sport was. When your coach talks to you during a game or leading up to a game, you know, your go home practice before a game, your coach at every level will say, do not let this game be close enough to be affected by the referees. Do not let this game be close enough to be affected by human error, because it happens. It's why it's called human error. People are human. Doesn't matter how good an NFL referee is at his job. He's still a human at the end of the day. He still might he still might make a mistake. He might have a bad day at the office, just like Tom Brady can have a bad day at the office. Or Bill Belichick can have a bad day at the office, or whomever you want. It's possible. That's why it's called human error. One roughing the passer call away from possibly losing to the Falcons. That's all it takes. It's just that one roughing the passer call. The Falcons get the ball back, and we showed that we were having all kinds of trouble stopping the Atlanta Falcons. All kinds of trouble. So we need to get right. This game Sunday, it has to be. And if it's not, if they squeak by the Carolina Panthers, we're in trouble. It's going to be a very long season. And it might be I know you can't be 500 anymore with 17 games. But it might be a 1 game over 500 season for the Buccaneers. It might be a 9-8 season for the Bucs if they just squeak by the Carolina Panthers, who are arguably one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's the reality that the Buccaneers need to live with. The Carolina Panthers have been outscored by 43 points. You know the only team in the NFL that has been outscored worse than the Carolina Panthers? I'm going to let it marinate for just a second. That'd be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been outscored by 49 points. It's the same Pittsburgh Steelers that took the W away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they chose to sleep on them. Got to figure it out, guys. Not an overreaction Monday. A very realistic look at where this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team sits Monday is what we're calling that here at Channelside Sports. And that's going to wrap it up for us on this Monday morning. Happy Monday. Try to be as jovial as you could be today. It's a real case of the Mondays when your team gets run through like the Buccaneers did yesterday. But anyway, I'm Danny. Let me know. Send me a message on Twitter. Post something to my timeline. I want to hear from you. Throw it in the chat. I'll check the chat throughout the day. I want to hear from you. Where do you stand? We need a temperature check for Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans right now, because yesterday it was, it's just the Steelers before the game. Well, how did that just the Steelers mentality work for us? Didn't work out too well. Is there a lot of football left? Yeah, there is. But the stuff that's in the rearview mirror, it's terrible. All 6 games have been brutal. Regardless of being 500 and being 3-3 right now, those 3 wins were brutal wins. Outside of the Cowboys game, 2 of the 3 wins were brutal wins. The Cowboys game made it look like we knew what we were doing, made it look like we knew what was going on. Unfortunately, that was a long time ago. Make sure you follow the Channelside Sports Network on all of the social media platforms. Just search for Channelside Sports Network. Never miss a beat, never miss a moment from Tampa's next generation of sports talk, the fastest and most engaging sports brand across all of the Bay Area. Make sure you tune in. I am Danny, and I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe my tune will change a little bit on the Bucs. I'll try to find some silver lining, because there's not much, but I'll try to find something. And, obviously, home opener for the Lightning is tomorrow. Regular season for the Magic is coming up. Magic should be a surprisingly good team. We're going to talk all about that tomorrow. So make sure you tune in and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the little bell notification so you don't miss a moment. We're going to do it all over again tomorrow. This is Channelside in the Morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network.